In the hush of night, when the world drifts toward dreams, the Nile whispers ancient secrets beneath the stars. Its waters carry the voices of kings long gone, and the echoes of temples that once touched the heavens. Tonight, we follow one such whisper, a journey into the twilight of ancient Egypt, where moonlight paints the desert in silver and gold, and a pharaoh stands at the edge of sleep. His name has been carved into stone and sung by time itself. But even the mightiest rulers must one day close their eyes and face the silence between heartbeats. So breathe deeply. Let the firelight guide your thoughts. Let the stillness of the night carry you back to a world where gods walked among men and dreams were messages written upon a river's flow. This is Whispers of the Nile, a pharaoh's dream at dusk. The story of memory, peace, and the gentle truth that even eternity must rest. The desert lay quiet beneath the falling dusk, a golden silence settling over the endless sands. The day's heat faded into the cool breath of evening, and the great river moved like a ribbon of molten bronze under the last light of the sun. Upon its western bank stood the city of Thebes, its temples gleaming faintly, its statues casting long shadows that touched the water. In the royal palace, Pharaoh Ramesses too walked alone. His footsteps echoed softly against the polished stone, a rhythm that matched the steady flow of the Nile beyond his walls. He was a man both mighty and weary, conqueror, builder, father of a nation, yet still a soul seeking peace after years of command. The golden crown was heavy even when he did not wear it. He paused at a terrace where the wind carried the scent of lotus flowers and cool water. The night birds began to sing in the papyrus reeds. He gazed upon the horizon where the last glow of Ra sank beyond a desert, and for a moment his heart softened. "How long has this river carried my name?" he whispered to himself. "And how long will it remember me when I am gone?" The servants had withdrawn, leaving him alone with the firelight and his thoughts. A lamp burned beside a carved statue of Isis, its flame bending gently to the breeze. Ramesses sat beside it, resting his hand upon the warm stone. His mind wandered to the battles he had fought, the thunder of chariots at Kadesh, the cries of men, and the silence that followed. Yet here, in the hush of night, even the memories of war grew distant, softened by the breath of the river. He closed his eyes, and the palace around him began to fade. The murmur of water deepened, the fire crackled softly, and sleep came upon him like a tide. He dreamed. The first vision was of the Nile itself, vast and alive, glowing under a moon that hung low in silver over its waves. The river whispered to him, its voice ancient and kind. "Child of the sun," it said, "you build your temples and your statues, yet all things return to me. Even kings are but ripples upon my surface." He drifted along the river's current, his body light as air. Along the banks, he saw the lives of his people, farmers tending their fields beneath the stars, mothers singing lullabies to sleeping children, priests lighting incense in the temples. He saw love, work, and devotion, the quiet pulse of Egypt itself. Then, in the distance, he saw the pyramids rising like mountains of gold. Their sides caught the moonlight, and for a moment, he thought he saw them breathe, great monuments alive with the power of eternity. Between them walked the spirits of those who had built them, their hands glowing faintly with the dust of time. The pharaoh's heart trembled, not with fear, but with reverence. "Are these the works of men," he asked the river, "or the hands of the gods themselves?" The Nile's voice answered gently, "They are both. What you build with faith becomes eternal. What you build with pride will one day fall." As the dream deepened, the pharaoh found himself walking upon the desert. The stars above were so clear that they seemed to hum with light. The air shimmered with memory. In the sand, he saw footprints, the traces of his ancestors, the kings who had come before. He followed them until he reached a great temple carved into the rock. The doors opened without sound. Inside, the air was cool, and the walls glowed faintly with blue fire. Statues of the gods stood watch, Ra with his sun crowned, Anubis with the face of the jackal, and Thoth, keeper of wisdom. Between them burned a flame that did not flicker. "Welcome, son of Ra," a voice said, neither male nor female, but full as the earth itself. "Why do you seek peace when you already rule the world?" Ramesses bowed his head. "I have ruled men," he said, "but not myself. My heart is restless even as my empire thrives." The flame seemed to listen. Then it spoke again, softer. "Peace is not found in the throne or the sword. It is found where the river meets the sky, where what you hold returns to what is eternal." The pharaoh knelt before the flame. "Show me," he said. The fire grew brighter, and from it rose visions, the Nile flowing through endless ages, kingdoms rising and fading, sand reclaiming stone. He saw his own monuments crumble under the weight of centuries, yet beneath the ruins, the river still moved, unchanged, eternal. And then he saw something more. He saw the hearts of his people, the laughter of children, the devotion in their eyes when they looked to him not as a god, but as a father. The warmth of their trust was greater than any temple. He began to weep slow, silent tears that fell upon the sacred floor. The voice of the Nile returned, surrounding him like the sound of wind over water. "This is your immortality, Ramesses. Not in stone, but in the love you leave behind." The pharaoh breathed deeply, feeling the truth of the words settle like sand upon still water. The walls of the temple began to fade, replaced once more by the sound of the real Nile outside his palace. The dream dissolved into light. The morning after, when he opened his eyes, the fire had burned low. Dawn was coming. A faint glow touched the horizon, painting the river in pale gold. He rose slowly, feeling the coolness of air, the rhythm of his heartbeat. The world felt new. He stepped out onto the terrace, where the first birds were beginning to sing. The waters moved beneath him, quiet and infinite. He raised his hands to the sun as it broke over the desert and whispered, "May I rule not as a god, but as a man who remembers the river." The light spread across the land, over the temples, the fields, and the sleeping city. The wind carried the faint scent of lotus and firewood. The pharaoh closed his eyes, and for a moment he felt perfectly still, as if the breath of the Nile and his own were one. The day began, but the dream lingered, gentle as the whisper of water upon stone. And in that stillness, peace, ancient, endless, and true, finally found him. The awakening. The pharaoh stood still as dawn unfolded, yet the memory of the dream clung to him like the scent of lotus blossoms. He felt as if part of him still wandered within that glowing temple beneath the earth, where the flame of the gods had spoken. The rhythm of the Nile pulsed in his veins. Every sound of the morning air seemed alive with secret meaning. The cry of an ibis, the sigh of the reeds, the whisper of oars from a fisherman greeting the sun. He turned his gaze to the horizon. There, beyond the palace walls, he could see the rising smoke of cooking fires from the city below. His people were waking. Somewhere, a woman sang to her child. Somewhere, a priest recited the first prayers of the day. These sounds, so ordinary, felt sacred now, as though each note was part of an unseen hymn. Ramesses placed a hand upon the cool stone of the terrace rail and thought of his father, Seti, who had once stood in this very place. He remembered being a boy, listening to the old king speak of duty and legacy, of how a ruler must be more than strength, he must be memory, the living breath of a nation's soul. But as he looked upon his land, Ramesses felt something deeper than legacy. He felt love, quiet, enduring, vast as the desert itself. The wind shifted, and with it came the voice again, soft as a sigh. "You have seen the truth, Pharaoh of the Sun. The river carries not only water, but the dreams of your people. Listen, and you shall hear them." He closed his eyes, and there it was, faint, distant, yet clear. The hum of life within the river. The laughter of children playing on its banks. The low chant of workers at dawn. The soft weeping of lovers parting at dusk. Every sound joined into one endless song, the heartbeat of Egypt. And within that song, he heard something else, the voices of those who had passed before. Kings whose names were carved upon walls now worn by time. Builders whose hands had shaped the very stones beneath his feet. Their whispers rose with the wind. "Remember us, Ramesses. We are dust now, but the river remembers." He bowed his head, humbled. The decree. Then, slowly, he left the terrace and returned to the great hall. The palace stirred to life, servants lighting lamps, guards greeting him with quiet reverence, the sound of sandals upon marble floors. But to him, everything felt changed, as though he moved within a dream still unfolding. He called for his scribe, a loyal man named Pintu, who had served him for decades. "Bring parchment," he said softly, "and record my words, for they come not from me, but from the Nile." The scribe bowed low and obeyed. The pharaoh spoke slowly, letting the rhythm of the river guide his thoughts. "Let it be written," he said, "that a king's greatness lies not in the height of his monuments, but in the gentleness of his heart. Let it be known that the gods favor those who bring peace, as the river brings life. And when my reign is but a memory, let my name be spoken not in fear, but in gratitude." Penta wrote in silence, the scratching of his reed pen a quiet counterpoint to the soft breathing of the room. When the pharaoh finished, he looked toward the window. The morning sun had climbed higher now, spilling golden light across the walls. "Seal these words," Ramesses said. "They are not for temples, but for the hearts of those who serve." When the scribe departed, the pharaoh sat again beside the fading fire. He stared into the embers, watching them shift and glow. Within their light, he thought he saw faces, the same luminous figures from his dream, smiling through the smoke. The voice of the river echoed faintly once more. All returns to the source, even flame to the breath that feeds it. He exhaled slowly. The warmth of the fire, the soft air, the hush of the morning, all wove together into a stillness deeper than sleep. The garden. Time drifted. The sun rose high, then mellowed toward afternoon. Outside, the Nile shimmered beneath its crown of light. The palace walls absorbed the heat of day, and even the birds quieted in their nests. When he finally rose, the pharaoh walked barefoot through the garden. The earth was warm beneath his feet, the stones smooth with age. He passed between rows of palms and papyrus, the leaves whispering gently as he brushed them with his hand. Every sound, every color seemed sharpened by peace. He paused beside the sacred pond, where white lotus flowers floated like small suns upon the surface. Bending down, he touched the water, and ripples spread outward in soft circles. For a moment, the reflection of his face shimmered there, the lines of age, the weight of memory, softened by light. He whispered to his reflection, "Perhaps this is how the gods see us, fleeting, fragile, yet beautiful." A bird lifted suddenly from the reeds, its wings flashing gold in the sun. He watched it disappear into the distance and smiled. The return to sleep. That night, when the palace grew quiet once more, Ramesses returned to his chamber. The lamps burned low, the fire murmured gently. He lay upon his bed and closed his eyes, feeling again the rhythm of the river, the pull of dreams. But this time, there was no voice calling him away. No vision of temples or gods. Only the simple sound of flowing water, the eternal heartbeat of the Nile. Sleep came softly, wrapping him in the same golden silence that covered his land. And in the depths of that sleep, the dream returned, not as a vision of grandeur, but as a whisper. He stood once more upon the banks of the Nile, beneath the stars. The water glowed faintly, alive with light. A figure rose from it, not God, not man, but the river itself given form. Its eyes were ancient and kind. "Have you found peace?" it asked. Ramesses smiled. "Yes," he said. "Peace that cannot be built or conquered, only given." The river nodded. "Then remember, Pharaoh the Sun, when the world forgets your name, the Nile will still sing it in its current. For those who rule with love never truly fade." He reached out, his hand brushing the water. The light spread outward like dawn upon the waves, until all was brightness, soft and infinite. And in that glow, the pharaoh's heart finally rested. Part 9. The Journey Through Light. The light that surrounded him did not fade quickly. It changed, rippling like silk underwater, until he found himself walking across a field of sand that glowed softly beneath the stars. There was no wind, no sound, only the faint pulse of the earth. Far ahead, the horizon curved like the edge of a golden bowl, and within that curve a single flame burned, small but steady. He walked toward it. Each step left no print. The sand seemed to breathe beneath his feet. As he drew closer, the flame grew into 1,000 tiny sparks, floating upward like a swarm of fireflies. They gathered above him, and from their light a figure formed, tall, radiant, wrapped in the color of dawn. It was Ra, the sun itself given voice. "My son," said the god, his voice gentle but vast, "you have traveled through life seeking to build what would not end. You have fought, you have ruled, you have loved. But tell me, what remains when the chisel breaks and the song ends?" Ramesses lowered his head. "Only the silence," he answered. Ra smiled. "And in that silence, there is truth. For from silence, the first light was born." The god extended his hand, and the world turned. Ramesses found himself standing upon the deck of the sunboat, sailing across the night sky. Stars moved beneath him like waves, and the blackness of the heavens stretched out in every direction. Ahead, a great serpent of shadow rose from the darkness, Pep, the devourer of light. The serpent hissed, its eyes glowing with hunger. Yet Ra did not raise his weapon. Instead, he looked to Ramesses. Every night, he said, the darkness seeks to consume the light. Yet the light does not fight with fear. It shines, and the shadow fades. So too must you shine, even when the world grows dim. The serpent drew near, but the pharaoh lifted his gaze. His breath slowed, his heart calm as the river. And when he exhaled, a beam of light poured from his chest, pure, steady, warm. The serpent recoiled and dissolved into mist. The boat continued on, silent once more. The gift of Isis. When he looked again, Ra was gone. The sky melted into the reflection of the Nile, and the boat became a small papyrus skiff drifting down the current. The stars above mirrored perfectly in the water below, as though he sailed between two skies. He felt the presence of another beside him. A woman this time tall, robed in midnight blue, a crown shaped like the crescent moon. It was Isis, mother of all things. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to hold every sorrow and every joy of the world. You have seen the power of the sun, she said, but have you felt the tenderness of the moon? Ramesses bowed. Teach me. She reached into the water and lifted a handful of silver droplets. They floated in her palm like pearls of light. Each of these is a moment of compassion, she said. A kind word, a gentle touch, a breath of forgiveness. These are the things that bind the world together. She poured the light into his hands. It felt cool and alive. Carry them, she whispered, and the darkness will never claim you. He closed his fingers, and when he opened them again, the droplets had turned into the image of his people, thousands upon thousands of faces, glowing softly like stars. He saw a farmer resting after the harvest, a child laughing beside the river, a scribe bent over his scroll by candlelight. None of them were kings or warriors, yet each life was its own small flame. Now you see, said Isis, why the river whispers. It remembers not only the deeds of rulers, but the breath of every heart that has ever lived beside it. The pharaoh felt tears rising again, but they were not of sorrow. They were of understanding. He looked at the goddess and said, Then my kingdom is greater than I ever knew. She nodded once, and her form began to fade, dissolving into 1,000 glimmers that drifted upward to join the stars. Part 11. The Scales of Judgment. The river carried him onward. The air grew cooler, the sound of water softer, until it was almost silence again. On the far bank, a faint glow appeared, not sunlight, but something deeper. He guided the skiff toward it. There, upon a small island, stood a single figure waiting, Anubis, guardian of the passage between life and death. The god's jackal head was outlined by the starlight. His eyes, dark and endless, held no malice, only calm. When Ramesses stepped onto the shore, Anubis spoke, Do not fear what lies beyond the horizon. The heart that knows peace weighs lighter than the feather of truth. He held out a scale, and upon it placed a small white feather. Then he gestured for Ramesses to place his heart upon the other side. The pharaoh hesitated, not in fear, but in reverence. Gently, he set his hand to his chest. A faint glow pulsed there, the light he had received from Isis. When he placed it upon the scale, it shimmered like the moon upon still water. The two sides balanced perfectly. Anubis bowed. Your heart is in harmony with the world. You may return, for your dream is complete. Ramesses felt the ground fall away. The island faded, the river dissolved into mist, and the silence returned, deep, vast, eternal. Part 12. The Final Awakening. When he opened his eyes, he was back within his chamber. The fire was almost out, the last embers glowing softly in the dark. The night was quiet, save for the low murmur of the river beyond the walls. He lay still for a long time, breathing in the cool air, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat echo the slow pulse of the Nile. The dream had ended, yet it had changed him forever. He whispered into the dark, The light does not end. It only changes form. And with that thought, he drifted once more into sleep, not the restless sleep of kings burdened by memory, but the deep, gentle rest of one who has seen eternity and found it kind. Part 13. The New Dawn. Dawn arrived quietly, as if afraid to disturb the peace that filled the chambers of the great pharaoh. The first light of the sun crept through the narrow slits of the window, painting faint lines of gold across the stone floor. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, turning the room into a soft dance of light and shadow. Ramesses opened his eyes slowly. For a moment, he did not remember where he was. The dream still lingered, the river, the stars, the voice of the gods, and for a breath, he wondered if he had already crossed into the field of reeds, that eternal land of rest promised to those with hearts pure and true. but the faint scent of burning myrrh reminded him he still lived. The sound of servants moving beyond the door reached his ears, gentle, respectful. Life continued. The palace breathed. He sat up, his movement unhurried. His golden ornaments and royal robes lay folded nearby, yet today he did not reach for them. He remained in his simple linen, the garb of a man, not a god. Outside, the sun climbed higher, revealing the endless desert stretching beyond Thebes. From his window, he could see the Nile, winding like a silver serpent through the valley, its waters shimmering in the newborn light. And for the first time in years, he did not see a river of labor or war, but of life. Part 14, The Vision Below. He walked slowly through the hall. The columns rose like great trees, their carvings telling stories of gods and kings. Once, he had ordered these images carved to proclaim his glory. Now he saw them differently, not as monuments to power, but as echoes of the people who had built them. The mason who struck the stone, the woman who brought her child water in the heat, the priest who whispered prayers into the dust, the river that carried them all. Each had shaped the kingdom more deeply than any crown. He reached the great balcony where he had once stood to address his armies. Below, the city was stirring awake. Smoke curled gently from the hearths of countless homes. The sounds of life, laughter, animals, footsteps, rose like a quiet hymn. A young boy carrying bread looked up at the balcony and froze. For a heartbeat, their eyes met, the boy's wide and full of awe, the Pharaoh's soft and calm. Ramesses raised a hand in greeting. The boy smiled and ran off. The old ruler exhaled, and the morning air filled his lungs. It was warm, full of the scent of water and grain. He turned to the high priest who had silently approached beside him. The man bowed deeply. "My king," the priest said softly, "you rose before the sun today. Shall I prepare the rites?" Ramesses shook his head. "No," he replied, his voice low but sure. "Today, the greatest prayer is silence." The priest hesitated, then nodded with reverence. The pharaoh looked back toward the horizon. "I have seen the heart of the world," he murmured, almost to himself. "It is not in temples or statues. It beats in the hearts of those who live with kindness." The priest lowered his head. "May your words be remembered, great one." Ramesses smiled faintly. "Not my words. Theirs." Part 15, The Sacred Pool. He stepped away from the balcony and walked toward the inner garden, a quiet place where lotus flowers floated in shallow pools. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine. Birds darted between reeds, their songs gentle and clear. He sat by the water and watched the ripples spread. The reflection of his face shimmered there, not the face of a conqueror, but of a man at peace. He remembered the dream again. Ra's light, Isis's gift, Anubis's scales, and he understood what they had given him. It was not power. It was not glory. It was release. To build was noble. To lead was divine. But to let go, that was freedom. He dipped his hand into the cool water. The ripples stretched outward, bending the reflection of the sky. "Like the Nile," he whispered. "Always moving, always returning." For a while, he said nothing more. The only sounds were the quiet chirping of birds and the faint hum of the wind brushing the palm leaves. As the sun rose higher, he stood and began to walk along the path that led to the small shrine of Osiris, the god of renewal. The air shimmered with heat now, and the gold of the morning deepened into amber. He stopped before the shrine and placed a single lotus blossom at its base. "For all who came before," he said softly, "and for all who will come after." Then he bowed his head, closing the eternal rest. And for the first time in his long life, a life of conquest, of monuments, of divine names etched in stone, the pharaoh felt the full weight of peace settle upon his heart. He closed his eyes, and the world around him seemed to slow. The wind grew softer. The hum of life faded into a steady rhythm, the rhythm of breathing, of being. The story of Ramesses, the great builder, would continue to echo for thousands of years. His temples would stand against the desert winds. His statues would gaze eternally toward the rising sun. But in this moment, the man behind a god finally rested. He did not need marble to hold his name, for the river carried it in every wave. The sky whispered it with every dawn, and the hearts of his people spoke it each night, as they drifted into dreams beneath the eternal stars. And somewhere, in that vast and endless stillness between waking and sleep, the pharaoh smiled, because he knew at last that the light never dies. It only changes form.